Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture. There are links up above. Please click them and support what I'm doing here, as well as please share this interview around. And obviously, I have with me wrestling manager, producer, sort of wrestler, actor, Big Dust. So welcome to the show.
Ew! Happy to be here. How are you, Andrew?
I'm great, and yourself. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Getting off a very busy week. It's not done just yet. I got one more day, but vibing. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, so obviously we're probably going to talk about a bit of wrestling, a little bit of comics, pop culture, and everything in between. And you've been killing it this entire year in a lot of ways. And the person you've been killing it with is Killian McMurphy, who was my last guest with Ian Flynn Wednesday, talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 30 years. So I'm curious how you know Killian, because I think that's the best place to start.
I met Killian first day I went to training. I went to training through a old friend and an old stablemate of ours, Nellie Bowie. Boat Shoes Nelson Bauer, good friend of mine. And when I came in it was the barn, is what everyone called it. It was the old training grounds. Mark Haro, my trainer, and Killian was one of the assistant trainers there. And I met him, big brash personality, you know,
Yeah.
which is weird because especially when I first meet people, I'm very in person. I'm a little bit more subdued. I don't lay on like the whole bulk of myself and my personality. But Killian, for some odd reason, he stuck to me right away. It was like me and Nellie were like his children. We always call him mother affectionately. I don't know if I could say that in public, but it's true. Um, but no, and then he just started taking me places, and yeah, simple as that.
Yeah, and it's been like the year or a good 18 months of the two of you teaming up, obviously forming the Goons and Camp Leapfrog and all of that, and obviously the one CW Bulletproof title as well. And so, how did that all form about? Because and what catch me off is that obviously COVID hit, and we went into this cinematic universe, and that's kind of where I think most people know you from. Is that that's where all of this took off, and in particular with the one CW Bulletproof title.
Mhm. So COVID hit, and there was a moment where me and Killian were still getting bookings here and there, but we had the one CW belt, the bulletproof belt, and we came up. I feel like it will always juggle between whose idea it was, but we came up with the concept of defending the belt against actors, people with acting resumes, and only people with acting resumes in cinematics, because we looked at the landscape of independent wrestling cinematics, and the large majority of them being there are people involved with them that I'm sure are very talented in a lot of aspects, but our issue was always it's like one still frame. It's like there's nothing really happening in the background. There's nothing really as an audience member for you to grasp and for you to get a hold onto. So the cinematics kind of birthed from the idea of trying to make good cinematics for wrestling while also promoting ourselves in like this weird and interesting way. And we've always been film guys. I mean, my first, before even ever thinking about being in a wrestling ring, I was an actor. I was an actor. I was a stage actor. I did short films and stuff. And then, of course, I got hooked up with some amazing talents, so like Robbie Radke, one of my trainers, Eel O'Neill, one of the greatest actors in professional wrestling today, all part of the Goons. And we're tearing it up right now, and we're only starting.
Yeah, and to even talk about this, because this entire belt and defending it and the acting side of it and all of that, there was a lot of storytelling being done. and there was a lot of comedy stuff being done. But then you also had somebody like Phil Stamper in there, I think, and Phil's from MCW, and all of a sudden you have all these circumstances where a match then becomes a discussion, and it becomes almost like a debate, and then it becomes something else, and then it's that entire idea that now you're taking what is known as a match and you're almost transforming it, and it becomes more than just wrestling.
We
And now
we
we're
had the concept of the one of the main things we wanted to do after just looking at the base bits, because I think one of the first ideas we came up with was the Phil Stamper cinematic, which, by the way, shout out to Phil Stamper. I cannot say enough good things about him. One of the sweetest men, one of the most helpful individuals. Love him. And he, because his idea was very much just like essentially a comedy match, like shot cinematically. And then we started thinking, what if we did it in films? What if we did it in a Western? What if we did it in a Home Alone thing? What if we did it in a Def Jam Fight for New York video game? What if we did it in a podcast? And I don't know if you've seen it yet, but we defended the belt in a podcast, the first and only championship defense in a podcast that I know of. And to me, I think if anyone's going to take anything away from this, it's go watch that. Because that, like what you're saying of us trying to push the barrier and break grounds in some sort of way, I think that that was the most groundbreaking thing, because it's just complete performance art and just saying like, hey, we know what a professional wrestling match is. So now that we know what it is, let's find out what else it can be.
Yeah, and to even go further into that, because obviously now there's no fans during COVID, and it's this idea that putting it out on YouTube, putting it out on Facebook, putting it out on social media, you're filming something, you're hoping it hits, and it's this idea that what is that like? Because obviously in a traditional match setting, you have immediate feedback on what works and what doesn't work, and there's a lot of risk in doing something like this and then putting it out there and then realizing, oh, we just did this thing with Phil and it did well. Now we're doing it with the O'Neil. Now we're doing it with Nate Colt. Now we're doing it with Nelson Bauer. We're doing it with Kyle Walls and Robbie Radkel. And what was that like? Because obviously now you're getting a lot of feedback, and also people are starving for content, and also different content, I think, as well.
As it came along, we wanted to keep a central idea of how the characters would act was a big thing, of how Big Dust and Killian would act in a situation. And we also wanted to introduce other elements, like different little cameos. Like you see Miles in the Nate Colt episode as the top goon. And instead of the whole Nate Colt episode being about him fighting us, it's more so about him fighting all these other miscellaneous people and then have the big fight scene against Miles. So it's just trying to do different stuff. And like the point you said of like the difference between, as opposed to a crowd, when you get that immediate feedback, that's a very good point, because I feel like when you're putting something out there like a promo or or like a cinematic, a lot of it, if you're not big like other substantially larger creators than I am, a lot of it feels like you are throwing something into nothing and you're just praying for it to get the littlest bit of attention, and you're just, because the only people that know that what's going out there is good is you and the people that you've shown it to and you've worked with. You have no idea how the audience is going to take to that, and you just pray. So it's a really interesting dynamic between the two.
Yeah, and I think it is something that is super interesting. And I think also coming out of COVID, I think it's going to be very beneficial to you. I think it's going to be very beneficial to everybody involved, because I don't want to say that's an entire promo, because it's not an entire promo, but it must be nice to know that, hey, we had a lot of experimentation here, and what we can do now is this, and now we can incorporate that back with fans back in. And
Oh, it's something to put on the resume is the best thing. show I can I've sent in resumes for like performance jobs and everything and acting and everything, and I've sent an episode of the cinematics as something. I think Killian has gotten like offers for things because of the cinematics. So something that leading something outside of wrestling is even crazier to me.
Yeah, and I think it's great too because I also think that it shows what can be done in wrestling. It shows how something can be put forth. And I honestly think that even when we move past COVID, I don't think cinematic wrestling should ever leave ever again. I think it's an addition, and I think it's a nice addition because what you can do in a match, and obviously we're going to talk about, Candy Coated Kingdom in a second here, because that, even with fans, that was brilliant, and that just aired, I think, last night.
Yes.
And so, obviously, and there's a whole history of stuff going on. I mean, as stated, we're getting lawyered the fuck up, right? So obviously, there's a whole history between Killian McMurphy, you, Erica Lee, the Goons, and Erica Lee. And so, obviously, this was what, 37 days this match was going on for?
Yes. Oh, grueling, grueling month, I tell you. She evaded every single escape. It was infuriating. She's very quick on her feet, that Erica Lee.
And so obviously you can't fight in the bar till 3 o'clock because John Wick rules are in
Of course,
place.
it's John Wick rules, man. John Wick rules.
You get drunk with her just to talk.
Of course. Well, you gotta like. I think the way that I went about that was the best I could have done. You know, I don't. I mean, I was just vibing. I guess I drank too much, which, like, it happens. I was fine by the end of the night, thankfully, but it didn't turn out how we wanted it to. We wanted to win the belt, but hey, there's always season 2. I'll say that.
And so obviously there's Revenge of the Goons is coming, and you could take that in many different ways. There's like 10 movie references that could be given to. But even that entire match and the idea of the cinematics and the fact that it's going back and forth and that it's going in and out of fans to some degree and people sitting around, and the idea that you're referencing all that and obviously producing all that and being a part of that, what was that like? Because it was really fun to watch this. And it's different and it's more, feels like a movie in a lot of ways versus a wrestling show.
That's kind of the feel that we wanted to have. We wanted when we wanted this match to feel completely different from a lot of the other stuff that we have done, while still having a bit of the Gooniverse big goddamn cinematic flair to it. And we involved like a bunch of skits. We evolved a bunch of really good bits. I'm very happy with how all of the episodes came out. I think it's some of our best work. I think, as you said, the lawyer episode, absolutely fantastic. Probably the funniest thing I've ever made right now is the lawyer episode with Timotheus Timotheus and Colton McFatridge Esquire, two absolute kings, and of course Judge Nelson Bauer, the king. Can't forget about him. But it's us just trying to push the barrier. You know what I mean? We want to have fun with it. We want to make it, and we want to make it something that we're going to be proud of, and we want to make it something that someone sees and it's like, oh my gosh, that looks like it has some talent and some effort into it. And that's all you can hope for people looking at it.
And I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I feel right now in wrestling is that there's a lot of talent. I mean, AEW, WWE have the talent there. There's no discussion, but they don't, in a lot of ways, have the story there. They don't have the experimentation. They don't have the comedy elements that are needed with, serious elements paired up, where I don't want Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley to have a comedy match. but having a fun comedy match in the middle of Monday Night Raw would be nice every once in a while. Or having like a story like Killian's obviously going after Erica Lee, and Erica Lee's getting sick of the goons. There's a story being built here. And it's this idea with that lawyering up stuff and all that stuff. And I feel that's something that's lacking out of wrestling right now, is just having these things that get people invested. Because I'm interested in where this story's going all throughout all these episodes. And I have a vested interest in saying, okay, I enjoy this. This is really funny. It's ridiculous in many ways. And it's hilarious. And then now I'm like, okay, what happens in the next part? What happens in the third part here? How does somebody get out of this? What type of match does this lead into? And I now invested interestly into it, if that makes any sense.
Of course. I appreciate those words. Comedy to me it's necessary. I think the people that say that comedy has no place in wrestling don't understand how they could structure a show really well. And I'm not saying like a big ha goof type deal, and I'm not even barely saying comedy. What I'm saying is the comedy brings levity. It brings a breath of air for the audience to look at something and feel a completely different emotion on a show. You have Candy Coated Kingdom that just happened. You had Alley Cat and gosh star Jordan Blade absolutely killing each other in that match. It was a spectacular show. And then I think like just before that, you had me getting thrown in a dumpster and Killian and Erica fighting off. And then that ended the big goddamn cinematic. And it's like, it works because structure wise, it's a moment for the audience, you watching, to feel something completely different from what you were feeling before. And
the way I view it is that I get to breathe.
Exactly.
And it's very nice when I get to breathe, and then I know that this is Jordan Blade and Alley Cat killing it and doing what they're doing is phenomenal. But and then I see this match and I'm like, okay, this is funny, and I get to take a breather, and I'm reminded that this isn't all that serious. Where I could have a serious match and a heartfelt war of a match. And then I can also have a match that gives me, saying, okay, I can catch my breath now. And
exactly.
I'm not in my seat. And it's nice I could be brought back down to more of a neutral stage, if that makes any sense.
That's what something like the big goddamn cinematic and all the other things that we have made could be used in for like a sake of a show to me. And it's not like me and Killian can't do serious. We can definitely do serious. If you've seen us at the big goddamn Super 8, we put on our working boots.
So let's talk about that, because that was insane. In which that, I mean, obviously that was not treated like a joke, that was treated as a real tournament, and the Super 8 is meant to be treated as. And for those who don't know, the Super 8 is a top tournament that a lot of wrestlers who have won the Super 8 are either running, the indies and are at the top of the indies, or they're in big promotions, or they have been in big promotions. And so obviously Killian comes out, and during the Cassandra Cup with Killian, I was making the joke saying this is just practice for Killian. And obviously Killian, and you were involved in those matches, paying off dividends and taking bumps and actually being very instrumental as a manager.
Of course.
And then obviously Killian advanced from the first round to the second round.
Against Bam Sullivan. Absolutely fantastic talent. Killing it right now. But couldn't beat the boys. Couldn't beat the goons.
And then you had Devon Storm as well.
If I could say this, I won't go into much detail. Facing Crowbar was absolutely hysterical. It was insane. I remember we were waiting there because I believe Ricky Morton was supposed to be in the tournament, and Crowbar took his place. And we were sitting there at the ring, and it was like before the show starts. Everyone's talking, they're running down everything, and they just offhand mention Crowbar. And look at Killian and I start laughing. I'm like, they're gonna bring Crowbar, aren't they? And then in comes fucking Crowbar, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's him. This sweet walking legend comes in. And then not only that, we find out we're facing him in the gosh darn second round, put it on a clinic against him. Oh my gosh, it was insane.
That was a crazy match, and then obviously you have a very very interesting final match where you have a very good professional wrestler, and obviously going through Camp Leapfrog, a very good professional wrestler is big in Camp Leapfrog, and he won the tournament the year before. So there's a lot of hype. He's killing it. He's doing what he did the year before, and he's putting on a clinic with everybody. And then you're going up against him, and the match was phenomenal.
He put on Match of the Night with Matt Mikowski that night. Those two killed each other.
And it was just one of those crazy circumstances where now there's a lot of hype, and Killian's in, and you are in a very big position in wrestling, where this is like the premier match to be in for that month in a lot of ways.
We wanted what that night was, what that victory was, what it meant for us was validation. It meant that everything that me and him had worked on together, what we had built, it meant something. And people wanted it. And if they didn't want it, they were going to have it either way. Because the fact that we can say that Killian McMurphy won the Super 8 tournament sitting in the chair in the middle of the ring, honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it any other way.
It was a very, very crazy experience, because I think either way, win or lose, I think validation was achieved in a lot of ways, because I don't think anybody, and I say this very, very respectfully, but I don't think Killian was people's first choice. I thought Killian was going to do it, and I definitely thought after that first match that he was going to get to the finals. But I didn't know between him and a very good professional wrestler who would win. And obviously something happened where a very good professional wrestler had an injury, and a legitimate injury. But the way that entire thing was played off, and you know when Joey Ace, who's a heel, comes out to help somebody, you know it's real. And it was this entire circumstance, so that was almost even more instant validation, where it is heel level at a new level. It's like MJF heel level in a lot of ways, because here you are sitting in a chair in the middle of the ring, winning a Super 8 tournament when you have all the technical ability. You two you were involved in helping him win, distracting, I think, Bam Sullivan and a little bit of Crowbar as well. And then there you go. And what is that like? Because that's instant validation on top of everything else that was going on this year.
ECWA brought some of the 8 of the absolute most talented professional wrestlers on the planet, undoubtedly. You look at that list and you see people that are superstars when it comes to the independent scene. And I would say even beyond the independent scene, like objectively, they are superstars. They are good. They are wrestlers. They know what they're doing. But the issue is that night, every single one of them got beat by the funny man and his fat friend. And sitting in the middle of the ring, grabbing that trophy, Killian dry humping it, I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't, Andrew.
I was excited. I was stoked. I mean, I was very happy with that event and that final match, where I thought that was arguably, in the last 5 years of the Super 8, the best main event they put on. And that's the second best main event was the year before with a very good professional wrestler. So in KTB, I think. And the way he handled that year before was good too, but this was probably top notch. And I think this has to be in 6 months from now, looking at it, this has to be up for moment of the year, because it really is one of those moments where it's just like, this is an insane circumstance that everything went wrong in, and this is the greatest heat moment and heel moment ever, and brilliant.
Things didn't go wrong. That's the thing. That's the misconception. I understand the viewpoint of that, but things went absolutely right. Me and Killian, I'm telling you right now, we wouldn't have any other way. You know, it is a perfect sum of our careers and who we are as performers. That is what happened that night. And I'll tell you this, like a very good professional wrestler, he is one of my favorite talents like out there. I think he lives by the name. Like it's pretty hard to argue like his greatness. And I am just waiting for the opportunity for me and Killian to tear it up with him one night, which I think it's bound to happen, and I can't wait.
It should be for the camp title. It would be ideal.
We'll see. We'll see.
And before we get into Camp Leapfrog, I do want to talk about one more match, because this is probably the greatest match that Killian's ever been in, and you've been involved in too. And
Okay.
that's against that big game Leroy.
Oh my gosh! Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so this is for I think his title, the Invictus Pro Wrestling title. And now I think you're wrestling outside. It's an outdoor event, and for those who don't know, Leroy comes out with a Nintendo Switch, and you came out with a Nintendo Wii.
God, we we were told about the match against Leroy, and we instantly got excited because Leroy, amazing guy, love him to death. Got a lot of time for big game Leroy, and he's also very talented. And but it's more so he's an actor. He really is. He's a little actor, and he can work, and not like work as in like moves. He can work, and he can tell a pretty damn good story, which is what me and Killian were incredibly interested in. And we were trying to base this whole thing off of Killian's hate for Nintendo. And I and I had a leftover Nintendo Switch. I mean, I had a leftover Wii somewhere. It was busted. Like the it was something like the disc reader didn't work anymore, and I had already transferred the save files from the SD chip to like other things. So thankfully that was all saved. Thankfully, my Mario Party save is still there, my 100%. But so I was like, oh, we could bring this out and hit it with a hammer, and that's our entrance. And when we got there, oh my god, and then it went beyond that. We brought out the Genesis controller for the finale, but even before that, we saw that there was an ice cream truck that pulled up, and we were like, oh my gosh, let's go get a Sonic ice cream pop. And what we were going to originally do was we were going to go all the way to the ice cream truck that was like a yard out. We with this poor new ref, we told him, we said, when we go out, just follow us. And he's like, what? I'm going to count you out. I said, no, trust me. Just follow us. And when we get to the ice cream truck, because I'm like, I want to see if he's leaving or not. And he's like, yeah, I'm leaving after this. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're next. So I'm like, give me the ice cream pop. Give it to the vendor. And it's like, it's shorter right there. And oh, dude, a sleeper hit for me, really. Like, just so much fun. Such a fun match.
And so what is that like? Because obviously during the summer, and when food trucks show up and there's a bar, there's a lot of things that can be done on the indies. That's always fun. And it's this idea that obviously you plan the Nintendo Wii thing, you plan the Genesis, but what is that like, creating moments like that? Because obviously the Sonic the Hedgehog thing, everybody knows Killian comes out to Sonic music, and obviously I think he screams Sega at some point during that match. And so obviously, and I'm sure some people got the Sonic thing, but even if they didn't understand what the fact that Sonic is Sega, you're eating an ice cream thing in a match, and it's just like, how far can you push it? And it creates a great moment. And for people who do know Sonic the Hedgehog, it's even funnier. And so, what is that like when just something clicks in your brain? Because I have moments like that too, where I just see opportunities, and I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be great."
Well, that's what it is. Me and Killian, we bounce ideas off each other, and 9 times out of 10, it starts off as a bit. 9 times out of 10, it starts off like, "Oh, would it be funny if we could get a Sonic ice cream bar?" Or like, "Oh, ice cream truck over there. I bet they have the little ugly Sonic bars," and it's like, "Huh? You think we can use those in like the Leroy match?" And we're like, "Let's talk to Leroy. Leroy, you would have hit Big Dust in the face with a Sonic ice cream pop?" Leroy goes, "Sure, that sounds like fun. All right, let's do it. Easy, easy." That's it's very. I find it very easy to come up with concepts and ideas like that because I think it's more so the friendship that me and Killian have. It's just easy to bounce ideas off each other, and we're willing to listen to each other. And then if you work with someone like Leroy, who is very willing and open to ideas and concepts, I think it's all about who you work with, man. It's all about surrounding yourself with people that are just easy and simple to work with.
Yeah, and also it's nice that this is film, that this is out there, and that's the other thing that's cool about it. And also, refs do matter. Where if a ref understands what you're doing, it's so much better. And obviously, some refs just don't get it, and they don't understand that if you're going to the vendor or you're going to a merch table, and obviously there's something there. Like for instance, if you were in a little bit of more of a hardcore death match and then you staple gun, like a Sonic poster on Leroy, that's funny because he's a Nintendo guy. And a ref has to understand what you're doing and why you're doing something. And so obviously, I mean, and also just saying, hey, trust me, I know what we're doing here to a ref as
I
well.
mean, that match, we filled the ref in on absolutely everything. Oh, I mean, the ref was involved in the match. Shoot, he gave me a stunner at the end. He gave me a gosh darn stone cold stunner. He did. It was beautiful. Yeah, it felt like hell because he hit me with a stone cold stunner. But I mean, I'm sure it looked great looking back.
And that's the thing is that, obviously I invest a lot of time in a lot of things like this and other things because I understand that, this is indefinite. It's up there. It's going to be up there for probably the rest of my life and then some, as long as technology allows it to be up there. And so obviously I work my ass off on stuff like this. And I think it's the same thing with wrestling. And I also think that doing that cinematic and that fun stuff and sort of doing, I guess, the semi-live, semi-cinematic components, which is what this is, in my view, it works beautifully in a lot of ways. And also, pop culture references are wonderful in wrestling because wrestling fans are not that far from comic fans, are not that far from anime fans. There is a connection between all of them. They're all cousins.
Oh, absolutely! You see all these little nerds running around with their Boku no Hero inspired gear. Are you joking? Goodness gracious!
It wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like
No,
that.
it wasn't. It wasn't. I love it though.
I remember, being made fun of for playing Pokemon in high school. And
Oh,
now,
now it's
look,
cool.
oh, it's dope. Nobody's laughing now.
Exactly. Dude, I love Pokemon. I base most of my stuff. I don't base any of my character around wrestling. I base it all around the media that I absorb and the characters that I find inspiring for my character. I think if you're going to wrestling, because as beautiful as wrestling is, I think if you're going to wrestling for inspiration, you're missing out on what other things that you could take from other media.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I find wrestling as a delivery system in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Where because I view wrestling as a gigantic comic book, and
Hmm.
I don't view wrestling as wrestling. I view it that these are larger than life characters telling a story, doing amazing things, and doing like a shooting star press or doing a 450 splash or doing a 630 splash. I view this stuff as comic book esque, and obviously I come from the anime comic world versus the wrestling world. I didn't get into wrestling until I was in ninth grade in high school. So I missed most of the Attitude Era. And I came in during the, I guess, war between Edge and John Cena at Unforgiven. So obviously, I view wrestling very differently. And then I came into the indies maybe 3-4 years ago. So I missed a lot of stuff also. I came in like 2018. So obviously, but I instantly get that all this is comics to me. That's what it is. And these are larger than life characters doing things. And that I like when there's inspiration where somebody's gear is, anime-esque.
It's relatable. It's relatable. You see something that you notice from the media that you consume, and you're automatically like, oh, this guy likes that. I can get with this guy. Or if he's dressed like the villain, it's like, oh, this guy's dressed like the villain. Like, I know I gotta boo him now.
Or in my case, I cheer, but that's different.
There you go. You're one of those. Oh, come on, Andrew. Andrew, if I see you cheer me, I'll give you one of these. All right, I swear. You cheer me for one moment, I'm walking over to you and giving you one of these, popping you. All right?
I have a great story at a WWE house show. Mm-hmm. So me and my friend, we went with two other of our friends, and it's John Cena versus Kane, I think in a tables match. Mm-hmm. And so now we're all in college, and me and my friend are booing John Cena. And we're surrounded by like 30 little kids trying to drown us out. And we just keep going louder and louder.
Dude, I'll tell you, I was on the John Cena hate train for a good bit in my wrestling fandom. But I'll tell you what, that man's the greatest of all time. Love him. I love him. He was the bull in Ferdinand. He was the bull. He's going to be Peacekeeper. Are you joking? Mm-hmm. He was in Trainwreck, Cock Blockers. Probably a couple more in there.
He's in Fast 9. But
Fast 9 coming to theaters.
I mean, and let's be realistic. He's facing Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. I mean, we all know it.
No, that's me. Yeah, I'm facing Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. I hate to break it to you.
And Killian's book, Sonic the Hedgehog 42, is coming out next month.
Yes. Oh my God! If they gave Killian the book, it'd be the worst comic of all time. It'd be awesome. It'd be so good. They should make Sonic characters of us. I don't know if Killian was yelling at Homeboy about that, but he should have been.
Well, Killian's trying to book a match against him and Ian Flynn, and I'm reffing.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll do it. Shoot, are you joking?
I mean, you're producing a bunch of stuff. You're very much behind the scenes in a lot of ways in Camp Leapfrog, and that's a perfect segue into Camp Leapfrog. And I'm sure we're gonna get back into Sonic the Hedgehog in a minute, or Mario Party for that matter. I personally don't care. Either one works for me. Because I have very bad memories of Mario Party, but that's a different discussion. Mario Party made me quit playing video games for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Don't play with Mario Party with competitive people.
Oh my gosh. I always hated the original Mario Party suck. They're great, but they also kind of suck. And they only suck for the reason that it's the Nintendo 64 controller was not made for the things that they were wanting us to do on it. It was not made for this motion. No, that's not okay. There's grooves in the Nintendo 64 controller. The little analog stick right there. I don't have one on me right now. It's in the other room, but it's just not made for going around consistently and fast. All the other buttons feel great. I'll say that. Every other button on the Nintendo 64 controller, ooh, beautiful controller, but it also kind of sucks.
Yeah, I like the GameCube controller. I love my Xbox controller. It works beautifully.
Is it the original one? Is it the Duke or is it the newer models?
I have like an Xbox One X,
Oh,
and
okay.
I bought an Elite like custom controller for
Oh, of
myself.
course you did. Of course you did, you
I'm
little
one of
nerd.
those guys.
Yeah,
And
Jesus.
my controller looks a certain way that will make people very upset when I kick their ass, and I'm
Love
bored.
that. The GameCube is the peak controller.
Oh, the GameCube is the best controller,
It's either the
undeniable.
GameCube or the Xbox 360. Because the Xbox 360 is basically just a GameCube controller without the gimmicks that the GameCube controller has, which makes sense for the reason why the button layout's there. But the oh my god, it just melts like butter in your hands. Oh, it just
So
feels so good.
I love the GameCube controller. I love the wireless GameCube controller. Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
the goat right there. And
yes.
then because wired GameCube controller is not bad, but it's a pain in the ass because you only have limited capabilities. A wireless GameCube controller, oh, phenomenal! And then the best thing you could do on a GameCube is buy the Game Boy Advance slot for it, so you can play all your Game Boy Advance games on your GameCube. But really,
I have one of those. I have one of those. That's how I play my GBA games because I don't have my GBA anymore. I can't find it, and my DS is like busted. So I just used my old Game Boy.
oh, it's so wonderful and but the only reason why I'm buying a Switch is for Pokemon because you can apparently like DoorDash essentially. You can do like somersaults in the middle of the field. It's an open Pokemon World game. How bad can it be?
Dude, got a lot of time for Pokemon. Got a lot of time for it all.
I
I
haven't played video games in 6 months. Clearly, like I got to get back into it. The last game I played was Cyberpunk 2077,
oh, I'm
and
sorry. Oh my gosh, that's depressing.
no, I've been super swamped. This is number
Did you
9.
like it? Did you like Cyberpunk?
Oh, I love it. I've just been
What?
super busy in the last
That
six
game's
months.
awful.
I'll explain why I love the game. See, I play the
Okay.
game differently than other people play the game. I'm
How
on
do you
mission
play
3.
it?
I'm on mission 3, and I refuse to play any of the missions. And I go around legitimately shooting strangers, and
Oh
like
my gosh.
it's the greatest thing. And then I get all the police after me, and then I like drive in my car legitimately all the way to the other end to let the heat die down, and then I do it the other way back. And I have
So
so much
you just
fun.
play it like GTA.
Exactly.
Why
And
don't you just play GTA? Cyberpunk sucks.
I wanted to buy the game. It looked dope, and I like
It
Keanu
did
Reeves.
look dope, didn't it? That's the issue.
And the music is pretty good on it
Oh no,
too.
no, Cyberpunk has like redeeming qualities. Don't get me wrong. The issue with it, and it's the issue with a lot of like the classic like bad video games, is the fact that it's literally unfinished. It's not even the fact that like oh they promise things and it's not there. It goes beyond that. It's like oh you have shipped a product that is not complete. That's the worst part of it to me.
I mean, I play it like GTA, and it's great. And
Oh yeah.
also I like the woman who plays the female V, voice actress
It's
wise.
she plays
I think she's
uh
Nami. She's either Nami or Lucy from Fairy Tale or One
she's
Piece.
Nami. She's Nami and she's Makoto Naegi. No, not Makoto Naegi. Makoto Nijima from Persona 5. Great video game.
And
Highly recommend.
so obviously I like that voice, and I just like playing it. And when she said it looked dope, it looked fun. Everybody was talking about it. I didn't want to be left out of the
I get it.
conversation.
I get it.
And I play it, and the only thing I really want is I want the golden baseball bat, and then I'll be pretty much
And I'll be
complete.
happy.
I have very low standards, very low standards.
That's fine. That's fine. At least you know.
I know exactly what I'm buying. It's okay, but the comics are pretty good, actually, oddly enough.
They have Cyberpunk comics?
Oh, you didn't know this?
No. Are they the 2077 like
So they have.
tie-ins, or are you talking about like the classic, like before the game came out, like the original concept of it all with the
I think
tabletop?
they have a prequel, and then
Okay.
they have like a few one shots, and then they have like the 2077 or like some story on it, and it's entertaining. It's
Well,
interesting.
I know it from the tabletop RPG. That's what I remember it from originally. And I remember when the game was coming out and it was like Johnny Silverhand. They announced him and like Keanu Reeves. And like being the big nerd that I am, having tried out the tabletop RPG with a couple of boys, I was like, oh, I completely know what the story is going to be now. I know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is what it is. I
Oh
never
yeah,
played the RPG. I'm not an
it's fun.
RPG guy. I
It's
am.
not bad.
So it's so weird. In which I didn't even know much about Cyberpunk before it came out. I just was like, this game looks cool, looks fun, and then also it was massively overhyped.
Made a lot of money. Made a lot of money. See, I don't give in to the hype. I play like I try and play like one game, and that's the only game that has my time. Because if I feel like if I play like multiple at the same time, what the hell? Killian McMurphy just said, "What the actual hell?" Thank you very much,
I
sir.
don't know. Did you know him?
No, I had no idea who that was. The little ragamuffin he is.
And so, I usually grind through a video game. Like I grinded through Sonic Adventure 2 9 times in a row because it's entertaining, and I
See,
needed to beat the cow
here's
part.
the issue. Here's the issue here. I think the Sonic Adventure games are fine. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that they're the highest platformers of all time because they're just not. And I know Killian's listening to this now. That's why I'm bringing it up. SA1 is awful. SA2 is pretty good.
Oh man, see, I love the Sonic games, and why I like the Sonic games, I don't have to think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, like I want to just pour myself a beer on a Friday night, or
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 for that matter, and I don't feel like watching wrestling, and I want to do something that is a little stimulating, but not overly stimulating, and not overly stressful. And so when I'm playing a Sonic the Hedgehog game, I'm not stressed out. When I'm playing Overwatch non-competitive, I'm not stressed out. When I'm playing Resident Evil 4, I'm not stressed out. Cyberpunk can be stressful sometimes because
Yeah.
that game is hard. And one of the failures of that game is they should have put a like a unannounced scale in it that changed the difficulty based on how you're doing in it, which is what Resident Evil 4 did. Because it would
Yeah.
have made a lot more sense. So you don't have to change it from normal, so that every once in a while you can sort of handle it where if you're just going through a tough level, there you go.
Well, Resident Evil 4, that's one of the greatest games ever made, right? It's a pretty outstanding experience.
It's in the top 50 of all time for a reason.
Overwatch, I can't. I love it, but I can also can't stand it. Oh my gosh.
Well,
It's so much.
the problem is that have you played competitive with every single Korean kid at like
Dude,
10 in the
dude,
morning?
ruthless. Ruthless.
Oh, so this is the I wish I filmed this. I wish I streamed it on Twitch. It is the arguably one of the greatest Overwatch stories and probably the greatest Overwatch comeback. And I'm not saying that because I'm talking about it, but we have 10 seconds left
Hmm.
in overtime. It's tied 3-3. The other side has a minute and 30 left. So now we're going into sudden death. So basically what we had to do is that we all rushed and just stormed and captured the point. And then following that, and then we had to move the payload. So now I'm Reinhardt. I rushed to it, and all of us, I'm playing with like 4 Korean kids apparently, because that's what like they had the flag up, and that's what I'm assuming they
Yeah.
were. And we get there in a second left. Now we're in overtime. We capture it, and I'm just sitting on the payload, and we have 0-0 on the clock. And if we leave the payload and they kill us, we
It's
stop,
screwed if you leave.
and we march the entire thing down in
Beautiful.
30 seconds through 4 checkpoints essentially. And
Beautiful.
then upon stopping them, we held them for a minute 30. and
Dude,
one.
nothing feels better in Overwatch than playing as Reinhardt and just pulling up the shield and protecting everyone, protecting your sweet supports from falling to.
It was insane, this entire thing, and I wish that I streamed it because this would have been like the clip that everybody would have referred to. It would have been perfect for it
See,
because
I get a dopamine hit every time I play. I love I only love Overwatch because I get to play Lucio and Winston. I love Winston so much. He's so fun. I get a dopamine hit every time I jump at someone. Oh, such a good game.
my
But
favorite.
it also sucks. That's the problem with these like online shooters and everything. I think like if you could be so out of the realm and not in the community that when you come into the game maybe like a couple years afterwards, you are constantly playing checkup. Like
I
catch up,
came
I
in.
mean.
I came in about a year and a half after because I loved video games for 10 years,
Mhm.
and I bought an Xbox. I bought Overwatch the week before. I got my Overwatch copy signed by the guy who plays Genji because he was at a con. And so it's a cool thing. It's personalized because I'm not interested in selling it.
Mhm.
And so that was one of those things, and I enjoyed every piece of it, and I still do. But again, I haven't played video games, and I'm also getting a bit sick of Overwatch
That's
because after
fair.
like 4 years, it gets old, it gets
Oh yeah,
stale.
it's the same game. That's the thing. Same thing. Nothing's changed.
It's not
Just pushing payloads and capturing checkpoints with all these wacky little Pixar characters.
it's the same thing with Forza Horizon 4, which I'm playing too, and I've grinded the fuck out of that game. I think I beat like 85% of that game, which is ludicrous.
Mm-hmm.
In order to beat Forza Horizon 4 85%, you need to spend either a lot of money to do it or you need to spend a lot of time.
Oh my gosh, I hope he didn't spend money.
I bought the DLC and that's about it.
Oh my gosh, Andrew. Andrew,
It
come
has
on.
Lego World in it.
Don't give these people your money. All right. You don't
No,
they don't need it. You know they don't need it.
no. The DLC was an expansion of Lego World
And
in
it was Lego
Fortnite.
World?
Yeah, you get to
That
drive
does
around in
sound
Lego
sick.
World.
That does sound sick. I won't lie.
It was dope. It's fun. You're smashing into things and you're smashing into Lego trees and then they break into bricks.
Love that. Love that.
In like a $5 million car. It's awesome. You're driving like a Bugatti, smashing into Lego flowers and smashing into Lego planes. It's phenomenal. It's the greatest thing, and we are so far out of the realm of wrestling.
Yeah, I was going to say we are not. There is nowhere near wrestling, but I love it. I love it.
And I do want to swing back into Camp Leapfrog
Okay.
because I love Camp Leapfrog,
Of course.
and obviously you have played a big component into it. I don't know if Killian's still watching. He, I think, either ran the first or the second one. He was sort of the main villain, and I think that was that Things That Go Bump in the Night.
Yes. Things that go
And
bump in the ring. A
or
fantastic match with.
bump in the ring. Yeah, that's what it is. It's Things That Go Bump in the Night is what it was referencing.
Mhm.
And so, obviously, what was that like? That first, excuse me, that first round of doing the first or second Camp Leapfrog show because it was a brand new concept.
Yes, I Camp Leapfrog is like a second home to me. Put a lot of time, a lot of stake, a lot of effort into it, and getting to work with the people that we have been able to work with there has been absolutely ludicrous. On that show, we worked with one of my favorite individuals in this business, Brad Rush. Absolute gem of a person. Make sure you look out for some stuff with him. All the goons are gonna do. It's gonna be absolutely insane. But he's great to work with. Got choke slammed by 911. Honestly, I didn't put that on my bingo card for COVID. I get choke slammed by ECW legend. Oh, it's just fun. That's why I liked it. You know, it was just a good time.
And even the way I think Killian came out, and you know, like the rising out of the grave and all that stuff.
Hmm.
I mean, it was brilliant. And also, obviously, Chris has been on, and I was Chris's last interview a few hours before the premiere of it that this was coming, and we were speaking about it, and it is a crazy idea to do it. I think and we're all adults. Camp Leapfrog sort of replaced Chikara in some ways. And then again, we're all adults. We all can handle it. Where a lot of those people who work for Camp Leapfrog and do Camp Leapfrog have come out of Chikara, and it's a very cool thing when that popped up because it does make a big difference, and it is very much like that, and it is that vibe. But it's also brilliant what's been done with it and the entire idea of a camp, and it's in its own little world too. And you're
I
all
mean, it's a super creative little bubble of entertainment where things. I mean, every time I'm there, I have a blast, and all the people that I'm there interacting with, you know, they're just so easy to work with. It's insane, and the people that they have behind the scenes. I mean, some of the most talented individuals that I worked with on like an editing and photography standpoint when it comes to wrestling, and just you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. And then now we got Killian Vision coming up, and that's a whole can of beans. I'll tell you what.
So I want to talk about Camp Love Frog first because that was
Okay.
brilliant. That was brilliant. Obviously, Effie was being Effie, messing shit up, and I can say this because Effie's been on, and I know Effie and somewhat decently, and Effie's always been good to me. And what was that like? Because obviously the dating game got messed up, and then obviously this is where the history of Killian and Erica Lee and the Goons all have the history that's been going onward, and it's probably far from over. So, what was that like doing that with her? Because it was really brilliant in that behind the scenes stuff and all those skits and raising the bar and what you guys were saying and the dating game with her essentially was
I mean,
great.
that's what we wanted, and I was excited that night getting to manage Eel O'Neill. I mean, even if it was with a tag match with Miles in the four way, um, I still think like getting to work with Eel is my favorite. Like one of my favorite things that Leapfrog has given me. He's an absolutely excellent talent and probably one of the best wrestlers working today. Like just undoubtedly, definitely the best actor like in professional wrestling I could think of. There's like no other better one. And he just brings a whole different dynamic to the group. And then when he was kind of in place, it was just like during the game dating game when we're all lined up, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it. This feels good. Because we're all four different and interesting individuals in our own right. And we all have different assets that we can use. And I mean, love for all getting to have that match with Erica. And Erica, hate to give this to her, really do. Ooh, it makes me mad. But Erica's definitely one of the best workers today, and just in general, she is an absolute talent. I hate her. I do. Not a fan, but gosh darn, is she an absolutely excellent performer.
And it goes even further because you as the Goons know all how to play off each other and know how to do these skits. And not everybody knows how to jump into that circumstance, and she knows how to do that very well. And that also helps to sell matches and a variety of other things. And so it is very important when you're doing things like this that the people you're working with jump in, very much like Big Game Leroy knows how to jump
I
in.
would say that she was very easy to work with, but I don't want to lie. I mean, she was very difficult. You know, she wasn't giving us a whole lot. You know, we really had to push her, say like, Erica, come on, you gotta let us win. And of course, she just doesn't. She just doesn't want to let us win. I mean, I frankly I don't mind working with her, of course, because like she's cool, I guess. But like she keeps beating us up, so I don't know, you know. It, I,
And then there's a bunch of other stuff that happened. Loser Eats Dog Food, Camper's Choice match, which was great, which I think was your first match. And that didn't go the best way. So,
oh baby boy, I'm a wrestler. Okay, did you see the headgear? Got kicked in the head by. Got the kick to the head and everything. Then took the spear. That was a blast. Dog food tasted pretty good though. Won't lie, dog food wasn't that bad.
and what I
Surprising.
like about a lot of this stuff is that some of this stuff is on IWTV, and then some of it's just on Facebook Live. And I think it's nice from a production value. And AEW does this on YouTube. And I think NWA used to do it as well, where giving free wrestling content out there for people to actually just get exposure to your content and see good matches and see that. And I think it's super important in a lot of ways because you've done both with that being on, IWTV, which is behind a paywall in a lot of ways, and also being on a Facebook Live page.
Of course, of
Getting
course.
that.
I mean, it's getting the product out there to as many eyes as possible, And maybe the people that are watching the Leapfrog on live stream on Facebook are going to think like, oh, I might want to see what these guys are up to. Check out IWTV. Use code Leapfrog for, I think it's code Leapfrog. I'm not too sure. Use the code, get, I believe, 15% off. Vibe, watch some good wrestling. Watch Killian Vision.
Yeah, I mean, and so let's talk about Killian Vision because obviously I know nothing about Killian Vision except that it's happening on Tuesday at 10 p.m. And that's all I know. I don't really know what's going to happen. I just know that Killian's involved in it, and you're heavily involved in it.
Let
And
me tell you about Killian Vision, Andrew. All right, Killian Vision is going to be the greatest professional wrestling show of all time, undoubtedly. Are you kidding me? It is. In all seriousness, it's the project that I've worked the most on. Me and Killian have been insanely hands on this project. It's got a lot of love. It's got a lot of what me and Killian want, and I'm very thankful to Leapfrog and the folks there for helping us achieve the vision. I mean, we wanted to call it Killian and Dust Vision, but IWTV wasn't having it. Sadly, I guess it was too big for the border or something. But no, I can't express enough how special Killian Vision will be. It's a must see program, undoubtedly.
and so what is that like for you that Camp Leapfrog trusts their talent to be involved in pitching ideas and booking matches and putting forth ideas and also having their talent front and center and also giving you an opportunity to be a lot behind the scenes and be in production and be in editing and being, you know, pushing forth the product because not every company trusts their talent in that fashion. And obviously Leapfrog does.
I mean, it was very rewarding. I mean, it was validating, because everyone likes to think that all the workers would love to think that they could run a show, but actually being given the ball and saying, "Hey, we want you to be a part of this." That as a creator, that as a person with a want to make things. That's what I look for when I look for the people that I want to cooperate with.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm sure the goons are going to do something fun.
Oh, just you wait. I'm not spoiling a ding dang thing. A lot of it's out there. A lot of people are announced for it. We got some absolutely fantastic names. I mean, it's going to be insane.
And our favorite ref's going to be there too.
Of course. Of course. Little baby, little dust. Little
Yeah,
dust.
little Dust. That's his
Little
new name,
dust.
right?
Yeah, that's his nickname, Little Dust. Affectionately referred to.
Oh, it's so bad on so many levels. Oh, that is horrific. And our favorite interview backstage talent's going to be there too.
Of course. Phil Stamper. Love him. No,
And
Sam
then
Laporta,
I'm sure
great.
Ilio's going to show up.
Fantastic to work with. Fantastic work there. There's going to be a lot of talent involved in Killian Vision, and as I said, it's a must see event. You can't miss it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it is going to be on Tuesday. It's on later, so obviously people can sort of roll up. And Chris Levin, what he said, and we were talking about it, is that he said that Can't Believe Frog is the type of thing that you could watch with your kid in a lot of ways, where it's not ultra violent. It doesn't get too extreme in language. It's not a death match company. And also, it's the type of thing where that if you could roll up a joint and smoke your joint and sort of just vibe and chill out with it, or you could, pour yourself, have a beer and chill out with. That's the
This
type
one
of
this one has a lot of vibing to it. A lot of vibing. The vibe masters really worked on this one. I'll tell you that. The king of vibing was the editor. I'll tell you that. The king.
well, there you go. It's a lot of editing, a lot of stuff like that, and so obviously this is something that I think is very cool. Where I come from both sides. Where as a podcaster, where I used to do pre-recorded, I still do some pre-recorded stuff, and I edit my product. And there's a lot of advantages to editing a wrestling show and doing something live like this. There's a lot of fun stuff that can be done with this as well, and has a different vibe. And so, what is that like for you? Because you've done both. And obviously, Super 8 was live. Can't Believe Frog is cinematic, and it's edited, and there's real advantages because you could do some fun stuff editing
Look,
wise.
I'm all for completely out of the realm of keeping in character. I am all for yelling cut. If it is pre-recorded, me and Killian have yelled cut in an absolute instant as soon as something goes wrong. It's how it should be. It's showbiz. Multiple takes are completely okay. In fact, they should happen. If you have the ability to get a second take on something, even if that first take is absolutely great, you should.
That makes sense. I mean, obviously, certain companies have different ways. I know in Limitless, for instance, they don't do redo matches. But I don't know how promos work and all that stuff. But that makes sense in a lot of ways. And I've done that where I've asked a question in a different fashion and I've asked it back to back. And obviously I transition, and sometimes I'll take out a question because it makes no sense in it, because I want to produce a better product. But there are advantages to doing things live as well. And obviously, they target different audiences, they target different components. And it is something that is very interesting. And I agree in a lot of ways where if you're trying to cut a promo, such as Lawyer the Fuck Up promo, maybe you want to do it a few different ways. Maybe you want to try a few different ways and see which one works the best. And maybe, you do take one, you do take two, and then you're like, well, as I like the beginning half of take one, I like the ending of take two, let's combine the two into take three. And then you're in the editing room, you're like, no, take one was the best out of the bunch.
Of course, and that's the beautiful part of doing things like a filming. You should do multiple takes. If you mess up, it's fine. We're here. We might as well get it. Get it for safety.
Also, film is relatively cheap because it's now all digital.
Exactly. That's the big thing. People, you can film on a camera. Me and Killian, that's what we have used for so long. Just a camera. And we've been able to do all this crazy stuff.
And then I agree. And then obviously going off of this even further, where do you even think the future of wrestling is going? Because obviously we're coming out of COVID. Fans are coming back to wrestling. Obviously they're coming back slower. I think people are taking some precautions. But obviously I like the idea of cinematic wrestling. I think
The
camp.
future of wrestling is going in the shitter. I'll tell you that. No, no. I think I think cinematics will potentially die down, which is understandable. They will not be as prominent, which, like, as I said, like, I completely think it makes sense because of the lack of need for them with all the fans being back, and COVID was the perfect time for everything. I mean, we'll still produce a whole bunch of stuff and for what will happen, and we have some ideas for how that could be incorporated with a live crowd. But just realistically, I mean, with the future of cinematic wrestling, I mean, that's it. The future of real wrestling, it's like, I mean, I couldn't tell you, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, dang, I hope that we can just keep making great product, and especially with fans coming back, we could just keep them entertained. That's the hope. Just keep them wanting to come back for more.
And I'm going to push a little bit with you. I mean, because one of the things is that Camp Leapfrog works really brilliantly as a cinematic thing because every wrestler there is a camper, and there's a few camp counselors who are other wrestlers. I don't know how that works with an audience because to me that like the world is built. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Lucha Underground. That world is built and it works in a lot of ways. It's also kind of like when Impact does old school Impact every once in a while, where they go back and they almost run like a '70s promotion. That world is built, and if you have the fake painted stadium
Of
out
course.
there, it adds to the entire thing.
And
Now,
that's the best part of Leapfrog. It is fully a camp. It looks like a camp. It feels like a camp. And they have these characters that they play it like it is a camp, and that it needs to have full dedication to it is the thing. For something to work, the characters involved have to fully believe it.
yeah, and I also think that if you brought an audience into Camp Leapfrog, it's not going to work because that
I
world. I
I
don't.
think it could. I think it could. I think it definitely could. I mean, it's mostly because of the talent that we have. We have some absolutely insanely good professional wrestlers like on the roster, on at camp. And I think story-wise, we would still incorporate cinematics. But I think if you throw an audience in there and you tell the stories that we were telling, I still think, hey, they'd love it.
I don't know. We're gonna have to see. I agree that I think cinematics is gonna die down. I think that having a stadium stampede match is not gonna happen in 2022 in AEW. I just think that it doesn't make any sense. I think having a match where people are fighting all over the stadium can be done, but I don't think it would be as dramatic where Matt Hardy's transforming into like 15 different Matt Hardys. I think that that's a lot harder to pull off with a stadium full of 80,000 people.
We'll definitely see where it goes. That's just my initial gut feeling is not the death of it, and not that it's going to go out of style. Just more so, we will see less of it.
And then we all know we want somebody in 90 days to come back to Camp Leapfrog to some degree, but I'm not going to say whom. You all can figure that out on your own. Yeah, and I know technically 88 days. 88 days. Technically.
Technically, we'll
So,
see.
so, 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 so. And if anybody knows anything about Camp Leapfrog, you can go and look at that Chris Levin interview, and you'll get exactly where I'm thinking. And I think you know who I'm talking about. I don't want to get sued, so I don't want to get sued by a company that uses 2 letters in the alphabet, and one vowel and 2 consonants.
Yeah, I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that.
So I would prefer not to get sued today.
Of course, that's above my pay grade.
And so obviously, I do want to talk a little bit more about pop culture. So favorite Disney movie, let's go.
Favorite Disney movie? Soul is the greatest Disney movie ever made. Undoubtedly. Unquestionably. Greatest Disney film ever made.
Favorite Marvel movie, let's go.
Favorite Marvel movie? Guardians of the Galaxy.
Which one?
2. One is a close second.
Fair enough. Favorite DC movie.
Favorite DC film. Dark Knight. Yeah.
That
Dark
works.
Knight.
That works. That's
Dark
fair
Knight.
game.
Yeah.
Is Suicide Squad 2 going to be better than Suicide Squad 1?
Unquestionably, Suicide Squad is one of the worst films ever made. No questions. No.
John Cena looks good in that movie.
Dude, everyone looks good in that movie. It's the only DC movie that had a good trailer. Every DC movie trailer has sucked.
Well, so there's 2 trailers out there. Every DC movie, as far as their canon line, has had a bad trailer. Like the Dark Knight, Batman Begins had a good trailer. The Dark Knights had a good trailer. The Dark Knight Rises, that had a pretty good trailer. But honestly, everything else had a really, really bad trailer.
It's rough. They're all rough. It's because, I don't know. I have a lot of issues with DC films.
What'd you think of the Snyder Cut?
Awful, boring, stupid. Waste of my time.
You didn't like it?
Oh, dude, it was awful.
The
only reason why people think the Snyder Cut is a good film is because they are thinking about it in the perspective of it as a remake of a already bad film.
I enjoyed the Snyder Cut.
I think everything they added was nothing. They could have cut so much. Dude, I have some feelings about the Snyder Cut. I'm very happy to a certain extent that Snyder was able to make his vision. That's the best part about it. But that does not mean that vision to me is in any way interesting.
I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it like
that's fair, and that's fine.
I enjoyed it like Watchmen, but I thought Watchmen was like 15 times better.
Oh yeah, I do agree with that. Watchmen's a solid flick.
I mean, Watchmen was great. It's a long motherfucking film.
Yeah, that's the issue. So gosh, I fall asleep at these movies. That's the thing. They're so boring. You'd think a superhero film would keep me awake.
Well, Watchmen's not really a superhero film, though. It's sort of is, but it sort of isn't.
Yeah, it's doing other stuff, but I see what you mean.
But I enjoyed Watchmen. I enjoyed reading Watchmen. Watchmen was brilliant.
Watchmen's a great book. It's an excellent book. Better book than it is a movie. I'll say that.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
Alan Moore is a great writer.
Yeah, and then he went crazy.
Yeah, well.
It turned into a psycho.
He had a book that came out. It's like legitimately like 1,600 pages. It's like I don't even know what 1,600 pages looks like.
It's disgusting. I don't want that. He's a nasty looking man.
Yeah. Which means you have a crush on him, don't you?
Oh, of course. He's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love a nasty man.
So, Bojack Horseman or South Park?
Bojack Horseman. Not that. Wait, okay. That sounds like I hate South Park. South Park's absolute like brilliant writing and satire. and a lot of what goes into the making of South Park is inspiring. But BoJack Horseman just tells a far better story to me, and just also it ended like South Park hasn't ended yet. At least BoJack, even though I think the ending to BoJack felt a little weird at the time. I think sitting on it, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I just started season 2 of BoJack Horseman, so
Oh my gosh, you're in for it. You're in for it.
I'm sure. I'm sure it'll be a fun experience in the next 6 months when I get around to finishing it. In between actually trying to accomplish world hunger,
Of course.
big goals here. Big goals.
Oh yeah.
And then which company is better comic book wise, Marvel or DC?
Comic book wise, nothing else.
If you know, just from the comics,
It's DC. DC makes better. DC has always made more interesting and more entertaining things than Marvel. Not that Marvel has ever made like poorly thought out things, but DC to me, they've let writers have the hold of these really interesting characters and really interesting concepts. Like something like Animal Man could never happen at Marvel, I don't think. Something like Animal Man or the Sandman or like just stuff like that. I don't think that could ever happen at Marvel, personally.
look at Marvel in 2012. They had X-Men, Avengers vs. X-Men. Like, what did that accomplish? Nothing.
That's not a bad book though, I don't think. I mean, but none of it competes with the classics. That's the issue. The classic DC stuff, like the stuff that was really good, the reason why Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman are like the Trinity, the most recognizable characters, like that, there's a reason. I do be loving Marvel though. No Marvel hate from me. I'd be loving them.
Who wins in a fight, Batman or Iron Man?
Batman. He's a better fighter. Yeah. No way. Iron Man's pretty good. He'd probably give him a fight, but even without prep time, Batman would beat him up.
Yeah, and all Batman has to do is hold up a magnet, and that ends the fight.
Exactly.
It's such a bad joke. It's like Magneto versus Iron Man isn't even a fight.
No, it's not even a fight.
Oh my god, I would love to see it. That's why I'm watching. I was reading Avengers vs. X-Men. I'm like, you do realize Magneto's going up against Iron Man?
Yeah, man, Magneto's just gonna crumble him to dust. He's gonna turn him into a cube.
Oh my god, it's just it's so funny. Like I'm reading that panel, and I'm just like bursting up for laughing for like 30 minutes straight.
I mean, he ripped Wolverine's adamantium from his dang body, and Wolverine lost his nose. A classic. See, I know comic books, Andrew. I know my stuff. I'm well read.
Oh man, I am
I'm
so done with DC and Marvel. I'm reading like Teen Titans Academy, and that's it.
You gotta read other stuff. Read Fables. You ever heard of Fables?
I read all Fables.
Oh, dude, Fables. Read Invincible. Show just came out. Just read it.
So I'm reading a lot of stuff like Zenoscope right now. I'm reading a lot of
Ooh.
stuff from IDW.
Yeah.
I'm reading stuff from like Robotech and Titans Comics and Blade Runner and all that stuff.
I just got the first like 3 issues of the Godzilla IDW comics, and I'm having a very good time with them. They're very cute.
I find that IDW and licensed products are way more interesting at the moment. And I find reading something like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or reading a Kanto is way more interesting than reading Marvel. I think that's just more fascinating. And also,
The issue is with superhero comics is like they've already done everything, right? There's very few things that they could do again. That's the issue. I'm not saying like, oh, let's reboot it again. I still think that there's a possibility of a writer to come along and tell some interesting stories, but like I feel like every story's been told.
But isn't that very similar with wrestling? And isn't that why a lot of people are flocking to the indies? Because
Well,
with the
I think with wrestling, I stand by the concept of nothing is original in media. Nothing's original. Nothing is truly inherently original. Something is always inspired by something. Something is always based on something. And honestly, it's okay. It's okay.
fair enough, fair enough. I find that indie wrestling is a lot more original and new ideas are being experimented with. Look at Orange Cassidy as an example. I'm sure that something was the impetus for Orange Cassidy, but at the same time, nothing was like that before he came along. Look at, Big Game Leroy. He's holding a switch and he's doing like a suplex with a switch in his hand. It's very, very cool. Look at you and Killian McMurphy. I mean, that's just something that, you know, and everything with the goons is it's something that is very exciting in a lot of ways where I'm like, okay, this is interesting. We have a bunch of people who all look different, all have different skills, and they're doing all these funny skits and all these promos, and they're doing all this heel stuff, and it's awesome in a lot of ways. So I kind of like a lot of that, where I'm sure that if I dig deep enough and I went like 5, 10 feet, 15 feet under the surface, I'll find inspiration for it. And I'll say, oh, this looks similar to something 3 years ago, but still, it's more
But that's
original.
okay. But that's okay because it is what it is. It's how media is made. You know.
Yeah, I guess that's just what it is. But I just find it more original. I find like a company like ICW, No
Mhm.
Holds Bar, what they're doing, even just weaponage, for lack of a better word. I find that like every once in a while I see like a new concept, like in the pit, for instance, Pit Fighter X. Like I find that stuff to be like, okay, this is sort of original here. And obviously utilizing UFC, they fight in a cage and they fight in a pit. And that's cool and all, but I haven't seen that done in wrestling in a while. And so I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And now it's getting a little bit of stale. And they have a show going on right now, and I'm just not interested in watching because I'm just sick of it and I need a break from wrestling for the most part. But I found all throughout 2020, like a lot of things were being tested. And that's what cinematics were for me, at the very least, is that I'm like, okay, this is a cool idea. And we're doing some
And the
cool
big
stuff.
goddamn cinematics are here, and we're tearing it up.
And so that's how I feel. But anyway, I do want to give you an opportunity to self promote yourself. Obviously, I know a lot of stuff's going on. Killing Vision's happening, a variety of other stuff. I know there's Pro Wrestling Tees stuff up there.
Yes, I got. Go to the Robbie Radke store. Get yourself some Good merch. The Good Father himself, love him. You can follow me on Twitter at Big Dust __. Same on Instagram, on Facebook. You find me Dustin Wilson. Um, Please check out Killian Vision on Tuesday. IWTV is it's a must see event. Cannot miss it. Check out Candy Coded Kingdom at Pro Wrestling Magic. And I mean, just be aware of what me and Killian are doing because we're not going to be stopping. Goons are not going to be stopping.
Well, on that note, and I've been saying it collectively, and I'm going to keep saying it, I got at least another 90 more times I'm going to say it this year, probably, or close to it, that you have to support indies. And what that means is that you have to support indie content creators, indie promotions, indie wrestlers. And the best way to do that is by supporting them economically, and that is through merchandise for the most part, or if they have links, or if they have their own websites, and obviously going to wrestling shows and watching wrestling shows that they're on. But if you are in a rough situation and COVID has done a number on a lot of people, please make sure you are good first and foremost. Make sure you are financially stable. And if that's the case, then you should be following people on social media, such as following their Twitter accounts, following Instagram, tweeting at them if you are watching the shows or you're seeing them on YouTube. It goes a long way because you don't know who is seeing your tweets, and somebody might say, "Oh, this looks super interesting." Also, it helps the algorithms and a variety of other stuff, as well as sharing events on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter as well, because you might not necessarily, you might know what's going on, but somebody might not know what's going on. Like, oh man, that's happening. Let me go check it out. So obviously, if you can, you should be doing both. But if you are in an economic hardship, you should absolutely do that. Also, I have some links up above. Buy me a coffee. I also have a Cash App link. All the money that is achieved through that helps to support this show. But obviously, as I stated, if you feel so generous, please do that. But more importantly than that, please share this around. It makes a huge difference, and it goes a long way. And so on that note, I am going to give you the final word.
That's it.